y'all. I hope y'all can hear me. I hope everything is clear. I was in the midst of trying to clean my room, but before I go to bed, I want to, hopefully y'all can hear me okay. I want to share with y'all a story that's being put on my heart to share. I was just watching this lady's video. I haven't really watched much of her content. She popped up on my timeline and I was attracted to the title, so I clicked it. And in it, she basically was saying how the person watching, like, you are about to have a life altering conversation with someone. She said you're going to be outdoors and somebody will approach you and they're going to try to like sell you something, or they're going to try to pitch an idea to you, and then you'll end up in the process. It'll be reversed. They'll leave the conversation with the scenario flipped and taking away something, and they're going to like be constantly thinking about our encounter after this intersection or meeting. She said most likely you don't know who the individual is. And I had to come on here and talk about this because this lady was so accurate. I don't know this lady. This lady does not know me, y'all. Tell me why that exact same scenario happened to me today, right? So let me explain. Today I went to the gym. I usually try to make it a point to go at least 3 days a week, but I was doing a lot of studying this week and just trying to make sure my grades were right. So I've been like hyper focused on that. So I haven't really went to the gym today. Long story short, I haven't really went to the gym lately. Long story short, I went to the gym today, y'all. So when I went, I'm doing my thing on a treadmill how I normally do, and I just get this overwhelming sense that something is watching me. I usually stay in the gym. I usually do at least an hour of cardio every time, at least 60 minutes. And I kept feeling so much anxiety, and I had on this bodysuit. And I just started thinking about, and I started thinking about the time when I went on a walk, and the bodysuit, like the middle part just bust open, y'all, like literally like the can of biscuits. And my butt was literally showing, y'all, and I had no idea. And it was, long story short, some guy had to walk up to me and tell me, because I had no idea. You could literally see my butt crack. So I just had this overwhelming feeling because the last time I wore this bodysuit, that's what happened. But I sewed it back up, and I just felt like I was bust in the back. I just felt like I was busting from the seams again. So I got off, and I'm bringing all this up because I want you guys to understand how highly unusual that this encounter with this gentleman was. And so I got off the elliptical, and then something just told me to leave. And I had only been there for like 30 minutes, and 30 minutes in the gym, I always say, like, when I go to the gym, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to get my workout in, because you never know when you'll be able to. I know with my lifestyle, you never know when you'll have another opportunity. You know, I plan to go 3 days a week, but stuff happens. So when I go, I really like to put my foot into my workout. But someone was telling me to leave, so I got to my car, went home, and someone just told me, like, just do the rest of the 30 minutes cardio, like, just take a walk. It was beautiful outside. And I'm like, yeah, I could go for some sunlight and some nature right now. So I go on my walk, I'm minding my business, I got my headphones in, and I just see this guy. I'm like 20 minutes into the walk, and I just see this guy, and he's like waving something at me. I took my headphones off, and we were just on this street, on this residential street. And he was on a bike, and I took my headphone out, and I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, do you want this? You can come get this. And so it was something that looked like money, but I could, could clearly see it wasn't. So I'm like, do I want this? He was like, yeah. I was like, what is it? And child, do you know this man said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I said, oh, okay, this is one of them things. I said, do I believe in Jesus is a kind of like a loaded question, because it's not just that simple. I said, do I believe that an actual man named Jesus lived on this earth and was flesh and blood and walked this earth? Absolutely. And then he said, well, do you believe Jesus is God? And I said, Jesus was what I would liken to an ascended master, like an angel, if you will. I said, God, no. I said he was an actual man who has descendants, and I happen to be one of those descendants of Jesus's people. I said, we've been misidentified, misnomered as African Americans. I said, nobody in the history of my family has ever been able to trace it back to Africa. I said, and then he said, well, we're all one, we're all God's people. I said, really? Is that so? I said, if that were the case, God, who makes no mistakes, why is there such thing as race? Why am I black and why are you white? If we were all one and all the same. And he was at a loss for words, child. He was scrambling. And I said, we are supposed to be, I said, we're different for a reason. It's part of the lesson. It's part of the journey while we're here. When people say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's race, but then you look around and you see race a part of every facet of life. I can't even send my 11-year-old daughter to school without somebody calling her a nigger. So at some point we have to be honest. And if you believe in God, then you have to ask yourself that question. And I also said, and then he started quoting scriptures to me, and I said, do you actually know anything about that book that you quote? Do you know who King James is? Do you even know how the Bible was created? And he said, well, King James didn't create the Bible. I said, I know. He said, John the Baptist did. I said, the point is, did God physically get a quail and some ink and dip it and write that? Or did a man lay pen to paper and create that? I said, that's something you need to ask yourself. And then you need to understand that anything that's produced by man is subject to corruption and manipulation. And so, he was flustered by this point. And what else did I say? I said a couple of poignant things in there. I said, I believe, I said, there is nothing that any man could ever tell me about my creator. He was like, your creator? I said, yes. The energy that's responsible for me being here, the energy that's the reason why I'm here. I'm here to love and appreciate and to serve. I said, the energy that created me, there's nothing anybody can tell me because I actually met it. I actually met God. I actually, obviously, I'm not worthy enough to be in the presence of God. When I say I met God, I'm saying I experienced God energy. I was spiritual, religious at one point, and I read the Bible from front to back. And I got to a point in my life, later on in life, where I'm like, you know what? I'm one of those type of people that need proof and evidence. And I'm like, literally, God, if you're real, show me that you're real. Cause I'm the type of person, y'all, I don't believe nothing until I see it. I'm a Gemini. I'm curious about everything. I need to know how every story ends. I need to know, like, and I asked God if there was a God to please reveal yourself. Let me see you. Let me understand and know without a shadow of a doubt that you are real. And this is one thing that people, this is why I don't like religion. I don't like religion because it's literally set up to be a barrier or a blockade between you and your creator, you and the divine. Imagine if you didn't have to go to church or pay tithes to communicate with God, or sit in a confessional booth with some weird pervert on the other side listening to you confess all your sins. Imagine if you could literally go to source. If you didn't need a middleman. And human beings have not yet figured out that that's where religion comes from. It's all a control mechanism. If the powers that be, we'll just leave it there for now. If the powers that be actually knew that you were capable of tapping into that energy and contacting source energy, divine energy, without even the need for them, the entire system would collapse. That's what it's all about. Any question that you have of God, of the Most High, just ask. You won't get the answer when you want to get the answer, but when it's time for you to get the answer, you best believe you will get the answer. Somebody was literally online in the comments, y'all. I really be in the comments, and they were like, somebody said something. They were like, God is a lie. God is not real. And I said, maybe yours isn't, but I know for a fact mine is. I know without a shadow of a doubt. And so if you're one of those people, it's some people that go to church every single Sunday that don't actually believe in God. They believe in routine. They believe in conformity. They believe in the status quo. They believe in the machine. But actually, people out there who actually know that there is a highest authority that exists beyond us. And it's been so watered down and trampled on that people just don't really know what to believe. And this is what I ask myself. Do you think the Most High, God, would punish you for not believing in something that didn't come from him, came from literal man? Do you think when you get to heaven, God's going to be like, you ain't believe in the Bible, and this is what I said. It was law. You were supposed to believe in the Bible. No. You don't need a Bible to know what God wants you to do and not to do. All you have to do is ask God. All you have to do is build that relationship. And I always tell people, when they be like, I don't even know where to start. Start with talking to God like God is your friend. Like a regular person. When you just sitting by yourself, just talk out loud to God. Many people, and I know because I'm in psychiatric healthcare. Many people talk to themselves on a daily basis. And I remember there was this joke when I was younger. It was like, everybody talks to themselves, but when you answer back, that's the problem. Imagine if you talk to God. Imagine if you talk to God out loud, just like you were talking to a friend, and you actually got a response. Like you were talking to a friend. Because I'm here to tell you that when you are ready, you can do just that. You don't need a book. You don't need a special book. You don't need candles. You don't need a confessional. You just need to spend time with God, with the Most High, with the Divine, with your Creator, which is energy, source energy from where we all, most of us anyway, draw our energy from. Those that have been cut off from the Divine, that have been cut off from the connection because they picked the wrong side, those energies don't have access to it. And that's the whole thing behind energy vampires, stuff that we just don't even have enough time to get into right now. But who says that the Bible is the final authority? Who said? Because I took American history class. I took world history classes. Okay, I know that religion was a system intentionally created to keep people in line, to keep people having herd mentality, to keep people from thinking that they can't do it on their own. We've been set up to falsely think this. I was talking to somebody, and again in the comments, and I was telling them, like, I don't speak to my mother, and I'm okay with, if I never see her again and never speak to her again, I'm okay with that. And people had a hard time with that, especially black people, because we are brainwashed into thinking that we need to surround ourselves with people. That's not the case, because you have God here. You think when we die, energy is neither created nor destroyed. You think when we die, we just float off into a bubble and go somewhere? You don't think that there are ancestors around you, the people who came here, the people who came before you. You don't think that those energies could possibly be around you, guiding you, protecting you, hugging you when you have nobody else around? Why would God want you to do this life by yourself? When I have a problem, I don't call my mom. Some people do, and that's great, because I feel like a soulmate can be anybody. A soul tribe can look like anything. So if your mom is your counselor and your go-to theologist, then by all means, that's perfectly fine. But if you think you've lost loved ones and that they don't stick around you, they're not around you, they're not guiding you, they're not trying to help you, you're dead wrong, literally. I talk to my ancestors. I talk to angels. Anyway, I feel like, back to the story, I feel like that guy, the impression that I got from him was he could sense that I wasn't just the average Joe. Like, first of all, there's not really much you can tell me about Christianity. I grew up in the church. Even though I had a rough-ass childhood, we went to church. Because that's what black people do. Because that's what we have been trained. It's been ingrained in us. Our ancestors who were slaves got literally beat over the head with the Bible. you will practice this religion. And I implore you to ask yourself, what religion was your ancestors who were your ancestors before they arrived on those slave ships? What were their religious practices before Christianity even came along? Because Christianity is a fairly new religion. Not that old compared to others. What were they doing? Imagine if you had been brainwashed to worship someone else's spiritual guide, someone else's religious, to serve their master. And no, I'm not talking about Christianity or Jesus right now. This could even apply to just money, capitalism. You know, it's some people who do nothing but focus on the stock market, do nothing but focus off the financial market. And instead of working smarter, not harder, instead of just going to your creator and saying, hey, can you please give me a winning number? That's what I'd rather waste my energy on. That's what I'd rather spend my energy on, rather. If I want it, all I need to do is ask for it. With the intention of my highest good always. But, so I just found that interesting how I didn't even remember that thing happened. After that, I returned his energy back to him. It did compel me because the way he stepped off is like, oh, I'm a sore loser. I just lost the battle. So I didn't like the way his demeanor was when he stepped off and walked away. So I just kindly sent all his energy back to its original place and owner, and I kept moving with my life. But when she brought that up, I'm like, how the hell could she know that? It was so specific. You know, instead of walking around trying to save everyone, why don't you worry about saving yourself first? Why don't you worry about getting right with God? The actual God. Because y'all think these Satanists and devil worshippers do or don't exist. I know some of y'all know they definitely do exist, right? Yeah. I had a brain fart. I forgot what I was saying. The bottom line is, y'all, I cannot stay up past like 9 p.m. I'm just an old lady. And I've always been like that. Even as a kid, I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with no problem. But staying up past 9 p.m., right now it's 11:24. But yeah, he just came over, and then after all of that, and he realized he was losing the battle. He was like, "Well, here, just take one of these." And I was like, "No, I don't want the energy," because that's important too. That's what we need to be teaching people about spirituality. We need to start teaching them about the importance of energy. How important it is to cleanse your energy spiritually. Teach people spiritual hygiene, man. That stuff is important. People need to know how to cleanse themselves. They need to know how to cleanse their home. They need to know how to react and how to act when they encounter negative energies and forces. So, yeah, oh, that's what I was saying. Instead of going around crusading trying to get people on your side, why don't you focus on you and your relationship with the Most High? I never understood that. Why are you so invested? When I die, ain't nobody going on that journey with me. Nobody from this realm. That's a journey I got to take on my own. When I got to answer to God for my actions, that's something that I got to do on my own. You're not going to be in there in the room with me, pleading my case. So why the hell do you care? I never understood why people care. Oh, if you don't listen, read the Bible, if you don't listen, you going to hell. Why do you care where that person is going? You need to be focused on where you're going. People will literally come up to you and try to quote Bible scriptures, and they don't even know what the fuck they're saying for real. The Bible was about dark-skinned people going through a spiritual journey. And that's what I was trying to explain to him, because he thought that I was insinuating that only dark-skinned people or black people are God's people, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying black Americans are actually the descendants that come from that bloodline. But anybody who loves and accepts Jesus and God in their life, then, you're safe. It don't matter whether you black, white, Puerto Rican. It's not God saying, let me make these black people in my image and they're going to be like up here over everybody else. Those are man-made concepts. But what's not man-made is we are different. We are different. That's not man-made. I couldn't be any other race but black if I wanted to. Y'all saw what happened to Rachel Dolezal, whatever the hell her name was, when she lived as a black lady. Y'all called it cosplay. But that's literally what's happening on a spiritual level with Israel. They are pretending to be the true Israelites, the heirs to God's to the throne that God promised a certain group, and they are pretending to be that group. So don't come up to me with your pamphlet that looks like money and you think I'm supposed to be, oh, what is that, $100? First of all, I don't even like shaking people's hand. They be straight up going there for that, and I'm like, oh, I have this thing. I'm gonna keep it real. I don't trust people's hands, man. I remember when I was younger and I used to sit in the bathroom and just count how many women, girls, young ladies came out of those stalls without taking the necessary sanitary precautions. But anyway, I just had to share that. I'm like, how does she know that? It was too accurate, and it literally just happened today, just this afternoon. So, I love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye.